You want to know real power? It's not in how much money you make or how many women you attract. It's in your ability to walk away with your head high and your emotions under control. Because when you can't detach from someone who no longer serves your peace, you're not in love, you're in bondage. Emotional attachment can feel like a drug, and like any addiction, it robs you of clarity, purpose, and self-respect. So today we're going to talk about how to cut those emotional cords, not with bitterness, but with power, with purpose. The first step in emotionally detaching from someone is realizing that feelings are not facts. Just because you feel something strongly, whether it's love, longing, or even pain, doesn't mean that person is good for you or meant to be in your life. Emotions can be deceiving. They're tied to memories, fantasies, hopes, and sometimes even the fear of being alone. When you're wrapped up in someone, your mind can play tricks on you, making you believe that your attachment is a sign of destiny or deep connection, when in reality, it might just be habit, codependency, or unresolved insecurity. It's essential to step back and observe your emotional responses without blindly acting on them. Feelings will rise, but you don't have to chase them. Emotional maturity means recognizing a powerful emotion and choosing not to be ruled by it. When she texts you after weeks of silence, your gut might light up with hope, but that doesn't mean responding is the right move. When you're lying in bed replaying old memories, that nostalgia might make you want to reach out, but that doesn't mean she's changed. You have to treat your emotions like waves. They come, they peak, and they pass. The goal isn't to suppress them, it's to master them. By separating fact from feeling, you regain control. You begin to see things clearly, how the relationship actually made you feel over time, how often your needs went unmet, and how much of yourself you compromised. Emotional detachment starts when you accept that pain can exist without a person being good for you. When you stop chasing feelings and start evaluating truth, you stop being a slave to emotional highs and begin building your freedom, one decision at a time. Creating distance is a crucial step in emotionally detaching from someone. When you're constantly exposed to a person, whether physically, digitally, or through mutual connections, it becomes nearly impossible to separate your emotions from their presence. Every text, post, or reminder becomes a trigger that reopens wounds, reignites fantasies, or reinforces attachment. Detachment requires intentional space. That means unfollowing, muting, or blocking if necessary, not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. It's not about being petty. It's about giving yourself room to breathe without their influence clouding your clarity. When you create distance, you give your nervous system a break from the roller coaster. You're no longer in constant anticipation of a message, a call, or a breadcrumb of attention. Instead, you begin to recalibrate. You remember what your life looked like before they became your focal point. You reconnect with your priorities, your peace, your sense of self. You make space for silence, and in that silence, you find strength. It also helps you gain perspective. When you're too close, your view is limited. You focus on the highlights, the what-ifs, and the parts that felt good. But from a distance, you start to see the full picture. The red flags become clearer. The moments you brushed aside now stand out. You realize what you tolerated, how often you compromised, and how much of yourself got lost in trying to hold on. Distance isn't just about physical or digital separation. It's about emotional space. It's giving yourself permission to choose your healing over their potential. When you step back, you regain the ability to look forward. You stop clinging to what was and start focusing on what's possible. And in that space, you begin to remember who you were before you forgot. One of the most underrated but powerful ways to emotionally detach from someone is to redirect your focus toward your purpose. When you're wrapped up in someone emotionally, your energy often gets tied to their opinions, moods, and presence. You start measuring your worth by how they treat you, how often they reach out, or whether they still care. But that's a dangerous place to live. It makes you reactive, dependent, and disconnected from your own path. When you shift your focus back to your mission, your work, your goals, your growth, you reclaim your power. Your purpose grounds you. It gives your days meaning outside of any relationship. When you're locked in on building something, whether it's your career, your fitness, your finances, or your personal evolution, you don't have time to dwell on what's gone or who's no longer around. You become forward-focused. Every hour you invest in your purpose is a vote for the man you're becoming. It's a reminder that your identity is not defined by who accepts or rejects you, but by what you consistently show up for. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring altogether. It means you start caring more about your future than your past. It means you value your time and energy so much that you refuse to spend it chasing what isn't choosing you. Purpose gives you clarity. It helps you see what's worth holding onto and what's holding you back. And when you're truly aligned with your mission, the attachment loses its grip. You're too focused on building to be broken, too in love with growth to obsess over someone else's absence. So if you want to detach, don't just sit in your pain, channel it. Use it as fuel. Let it drive you deeper into the life you were meant to create. Detaching emotionally from someone often requires distance, not just physical but mental and emotional as well. One of the most important steps in this process is cutting off or significantly limiting contact. This doesn't mean acting out of bitterness or resentment. It means making a conscious decision to protect your peace and reclaim your focus. The more you stay in contact with someone you're trying to move on from, the harder it becomes to detach. Every message, every call, every accidental scroll through their social media reopens wounds you're trying to heal. Contact keeps the illusion alive. It keeps the emotional hooks in place, whether it's through occasional check-ins, friendly conversations, or even arguments. These interactions, no matter how small, reactivate the emotional attachment and pull you back into the same cycle. You start hoping again, wondering again, waiting again. And while it might feel like you're being mature by staying friendly, you're often sabotaging your own healing in the process. Detachment isn't cold, it's courageous. It's the act of choosing growth over familiarity. When you limit or cut off contact, you give yourself space to recenter, to think clearly, and to begin building an identity separate from that person. You start to find your own rhythm again without being emotionally derailed by their presence. This clarity is where the true healing begins. Many people are afraid of going no contact because it feels final. But sometimes, final is exactly what's needed. It draws a line in the sand that says, I respect myself enough to let go. You don't detach by holding on. You detach by stepping back and giving yourself the environment to thrive without the emotional chaos. Silence isn't weakness. It's a declaration of inner strength. And when you honor that silence, you begin to reclaim your life. One of the most powerful ways to emotionally detach from someone is by refocusing your energy on personal growth. When you're deeply attached to someone, a large portion of your emotional and mental bandwidth is directed toward them, what they think, how they feel, and what they're doing. This energy, if redirected inward, can become a powerful force for transformation. Emotional detachment isn't just about removing someone from your thoughts. It's about replacing that space with something more productive, more fulfilling, and more aligned with your goals. When you start channeling your focus into your own development, whether it's physical fitness, learning a new skill, leveling up your career, or even just getting more disciplined in your daily habits, you begin to realize that your life is your responsibility. No one else can give you the fulfillment you can create for yourself. Growth becomes addictive, and with every step forward, the emotional hold that person had over you begins to loosen. This doesn't mean you're pretending they didn't matter. It means you're choosing to matter more to yourself. You're choosing to evolve instead of staying emotionally stagnant. And as you grow, your perspective changes. What once felt like a deep emotional wound starts to feel like a life lesson. What once consumed you starts to fade into the background. The truth is, the best revenge is not silence and it's not indifference. it's improvement. When you become the strongest, most focused and grounded version of yourself, you no longer crave their validation. You begin to attract people, experiences, and opportunities that reflect your upgraded mindset. Emotional detachment isn't the end of connection. It's the beginning of true self-mastery. The more you invest in yourself, the less power anyone else has to disrupt your inner peace. Growth is freedom. Growth is detachment. Creating physical and emotional distance is essential when emotionally detaching from someone. The more access someone has to your time, attention, and emotions, the more influence they continue to hold over you, even if the relationship is already over. Emotional entanglement thrives on continued connection, so cutting or minimizing contact is not cruelty, it's clarity. It's a necessary boundary that helps you begin the process of healing and self-restoration. When you consistently see someone's name pop up on your phone, scroll through their social media, or remain in the same physical spaces, you're subconsciously reinforcing their presence in your emotional world. Detachment requires a clean break, at least temporarily, so your mind and heart can recalibrate. It's not about pretending the person didn't exist. It's about giving yourself the space to breathe without the emotional noise they bring. This distance also allows you to reset your perspective. From a distance, you can begin to see patterns and behaviors that were clouded by emotional bias when you were too close to the situation. Clarity often comes with space, not proximity. You realize what you tolerated, what you ignored, and how your emotional attachment may have blinded you to what was actually healthy for you. Creating this distance can be uncomfortable at first. It may feel like you're losing a part of yourself. But in reality, you're reclaiming the parts of you that were entangled in someone else's energy. You're freeing up room for better connections and healthier experiences. The silence that comes from distance isn't empty. It's full of possibility, reflection, and growth. With time and space, you regain your emotional autonomy and begin to build a foundation that no longer relies on someone else's presence to feel complete. Walk away like a man who knows his value. Because real strength isn't in holding on, it's in letting go without losing yourself.